The other nuclear option. The president strikes a deal with Iran, but even some of his Democratic allies fear it could blow up in his face. This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Brett Baer. It's difficult to find anyone outside the White House who has many good things to say tonight about an agreement easing international sanctions on Iran in exchange for a short pause in its nuclear program. But there are plenty of naysayers, even in the president's own political corner. Tonight, Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen tells us from the White House who's for it and why so many are against it.
During a West Coast speech on immigration, President Obama defended the nuclear deal the U.S. and its allies clinched over the weekend with Iran.
We cannot commit ourselves to an endless cycle of conflict. And tough talk and bluster may be the easy thing to do politically, but it's not the right thing for our security.
Under terms finalized Saturday in seven-nation talks in Geneva, Iran has agreed for 6 months to enrich uranium only to the 5% level or lower, to dilute its stockpile of 20% enriched uranium, which is easier to use, and to allow for daily inspections at its nuclear plants, some off limits until now.
The three paths that Iran has to a bomb: 20% enrichment, 3.5 with advanced centrifuges, and this plutonium reactor that people are concerned about at Iraq, all of those are stopped in their tracks.
An estimated $6 billion in sanctions will be lifted while negotiators try to hammer out a permanent deal. In Tehran, the mullahs claim their right to enrich has been codified, something the White House denied.
What the document says is that in a final agreement, we would have to mutually define what the nature of the Iranian program is. So we get to decide whether Iran has dismantled its facilities, put in place sufficient constraints.
The U.S. has to take the position and get it into the deal that the Iran has no need for enriched uranium. Yes, maybe they're going to have a program, but they have no need for this, and that it's better for them and more economical and quite feasible if there is a deal to go out and buy the enriched uranium that they need.
Senator Bob Menendez, Democratic chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, agreed to hold off on new sanctions for 6 months, but added this agreement did not proportionately reduce Iran's nuclear program for the relief it is receiving. And Senator Charles Schumer, Democrat of New York, citing the same complaint, vowed to push for new sanctions next week.
I think that this is a marginal improvement. It does freeze some of their activity in place. And it continues the major sanctions in place.
But we've seen previous administrations make the same mistake as this one, which is to be too gullible, to not negotiate hard enough, and to take a deal in which we have not precluded the capacity to develop nuclear weapons.
And that was the main complaint from Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called this interim deal a historic mistake and promptly dispatched his national security advisor to Washington for more talks. Arab allies like Saudi Arabia are quietly expressing concern that the U.S. is edging away from its traditional allies in that part of the world. And one of those allies, Oman, Fox News has confirmed, secretly hosted several rounds of talks between the U.S. and the Iranians dating back to last March. Brett.
James Rosen live on the North Lawn. James.